Welcome back to the channel, everybody. I am the stepson of Krypton.
And I'm Mantis.
Xander is no more for right now. He's stepping away from the podcasting and videos for a little bit. I think that one episode took a lot out of him. So we're glad to
Yeah,
have Mantis back in the studio.
he's got to make round trips, I think, through New York, California, I think Nevada as well for child support trials. So in family court. So I don't know what that's about, but
It's nice when you can schedule them all in succession, right, and just kind of go from one to the other
yeah.
and all that.
I told him, I was like, it's not surprising. Like, that's literally our tour stops. So it's like,
There you go. Two birds, one stone. Secret behind that is large stones, small birds. So today we are, if you can tell by the background behind me, we are going to be discussing episodes 3 and 4 of Fallout. So Mantis, if you are ready, we're going to go ahead and get into the discussion. All right, guys. So as you know, we have put out a video, and when I say like I think there's like 12 of you that know. We put out a video over episodes 1 and 2 of Fallout. Now, and I will make sure in the description it is clearly stated this is not a reaction to it. This is a discussion about the episodes because. For those of you who have been with us at the beginning, we used to do reactions. It did not go over well. YouTube and a lot of these big companies, they hate to hit small channels that aren't making them any money. So they copyright claim everything and block everything, and it just becomes too much of a hassle. So for everybody's sanity,
look,
including mine, do what?
we were getting good views. That wasn't the problem. It was, just YouTube being dumb.
and a lot of reaction channels have been dealing with that. It's getting worse and worse. So we stepped off of the reactions and now like doing the discussion videos about Fallout because it is a great show. If we were still doing reactions, we definitely would. And Mantis, do you want to lead the discussion on the review of episode 3?
Yeah. Episode 3, I think, I forget the title. Was it called The Head?
I
think that's what it was called. Which this episode kind of starts out with Lucy and with the head, I guess. Well, I take that back. The very first, and this happened with both episode 3 and episode 4, because we're going to talk about 4 as well. It kind of started with going through Cooper, or the Ghoul, and his kind of backstory there. Episode 4 kind of started the same way with Cooper, and then ends with Cooper. This one is the same, ends with Cooper. So they're kind of bookending the episodes with the Ghoul and Cooper.
I'm hoping you didn't spoil that for anybody. Like by now you should know that information.
This is a goddamn review of the fucking episode. Why are you fucking watching it if you haven't seen the episode?
Yeah, but I mean, maybe I'm like, did they put that together already? Right? Like, I'm hoping it did. But if you've made it this far into any kind of reactions, reviews of it, it shouldn't be a surprise to you that yes, they are the same person.
I'm not gonna. This is. I guess we can say it right here. There's spoilers all throughout this shit. So if you haven't seen it, go watch the damn episode, then come back and watch this. So yeah, episode 3. What I found was kind of interesting because it kind of, the episode starts out with Cooper or Walton Goggins' character doing a scene for a movie, a western, that he's an actor in Hollywood.
There's an old Mexican eulogy. Feo, fuerte y formal.
And there's a couple of things that struck me about that scene, that you kind of see his character being a stark difference from what it is in the current time, because obviously that's a flashback before the bombs were dropped. And he's kind of arguing that his character doesn't kill people, right? Like he's a sheriff. He's always done that. He's been the good cop. He's the good guy. And kind of what I was thinking when I was watching, like, what the hell happened to him? Like, it's not like he was playing a character and he was just, the character was a good guy. But even when he's off the screen talking to his wife and his kids and at the birthday party, like, he's a good guy. Like, you could tell he has good. Yeah.
Very
So what
wholesome.
the hell happened? Like,
Well,
I know it's 200 years changes a lot, but like, what happened?
Well, so, and I know I don't want to jump around too much, guys. I promise this will be the only time I do it. But the interesting thing, because we are discussing 4 as well, is that's how 4 ends. Is he's watching that video of that scene that he didn't want to do in episode 3. He's like, "Do I
Mhm.
have to shoot him?" And then he's watching that as the ghoul, doped up on I think he took every Kim in that damn building.
He did, yeah.
Which real quick, and this last thing I'll say, we'll go back in order of sticking with 3. I love that it was super duper Mart.
Yes.
I
Super
love
duper
it.
Mart, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but going
So
back to
that's
episode 3, um, go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say that's kind of the first thing that caught me the very beginning of that episode.
Yeah, and like you kind of knew from episode 1, like they're obviously, why would you focus on somebody who died in the very beginning of the
Sure.
freaking season, the very beginning of the series, he died. You're like, unless it's got some bigger meaning, then you see the ghoul and you're like, oh shit, well that's him. And then
Mhm.
you kind of see him corrupted. But like you said, it's I think from the time that vault opened, time he meets Lucy, it's 217 years. So
Right.
yeah.
A lot of shit can go down in 200 years. So
Well,
yeah,
and
yeah.
like he keeps trying to everybody in the wasteland keeps trying to tell Lucy, you can't be naive. You can't be the good person's not going to survive in the wasteland.
Right, yeah. And that's the thing. It's funny too. Is and I'll talk about this in episode 4. But like, my next question was, what's the significance of the head in the bigger picture of this series? And I don't want you to answer that as if I only in the context of maybe these 2 episodes. This is more of a question to you, since I
um,
know you've seen all of them.
I have seen all of them, guys, and so what I did was I went back and kind of recapped the 2 episodes before doing this because I didn't want to spill something that came into a later episodes. So I was like, oh, where do I need to
They
stop?
blend together.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's when you kind of binge watch it, everything is it's like you're like, when was the fucking episode break? But
Mhm.
so you're asking about the head as far as why
Yeah,
it's
because I
so
don't remember
important.
them. I don't. Yeah, because I don't remember. They don't. I don't. At least I could be wrong. I don't think they even mentioned anything of why his head's so important, unless it was at the very
They
end of the
do,
episode
they
too.
do.
Okay.
So if you remember before he leaves the Enclave, remember when he's trying to escape the Enclave, he injects himself in the neck.
Oh, okay. Oh, and she hits it. Yeah, she in the scene. When she's
Yeah,
holding
she
this.
kind of like she's like wondering
Yeah.
what that is, and she hits it, and
Okay.
it kind of shocks her. He injects himself with something,
Something.
whatever. I guess something he is taken from the Enclave or whatever. But that I you have to. That's what makes his head so valuable is whatever he injected himself with. Is why
And it seems
everybody's
like they all
after him.
know what it is. Like everyone has maybe different reasons for wanting the head, possibly.
I don't know
So
that every character we see, like there are higher ups that know, and some people are just getting paid a lot of caps to just get it.
right.
You
Right,
know?
exactly. I
Um,
feel like that's the whole significance that Cooper wants it, right? He just wants it because he's going to get enough caps to buy more Radaway, and I I don't know. I kind of going from there. We'll get off that because we'll kind of come back to it in the next episode. But like then it gets into the Maximus stuff where at the end of the second episode you see God, I forget his name. That's in the suit, Titus. I forget his name. Uh, the guy that dies that was in the power suit initially, the actor that
Michael
plays him.
Rappaport.
Anyway, yes, Rappaport. Doesn't matter, he's dead, whatever. But you do get to see because he gets a new squire because he kind of acts like he's Titus, right? Like he takes his identity, quote unquote. And then he gets a new squire, and man, do they treat them like shit. They treat them like cannon fodder, right? Like they're just like a lower class of initiate in the Brotherhood of Steel. So the fight which it was a pretty good fight scene there
Dude,
between the scavengers. Yeah, just crushes dude's head.
now I do
It
want
looked
to
like he
apologize real quick. Sorry, not to cut you off, but
No,
real
you're
quick.
good.
I had said if you watched our first video, I'd said I'd seen the first 2 episodes just like Mantis, but I'd seen like the first few minutes of the third one. I think I slipped and said about him crushing the guy's head when he was in power armor in the last thing, which is actually the very beginning of 3. So I apologize. Spoiler alert that I didn't even know just because again they blended together, right? I'm just kind of watching them. I'm like, oh shit, let me stop. So I apologize, but please go on.
Yeah. That fight scene was pretty cool. He looked like he was kind of fumbling around with it, like he wasn't really trained, or maybe he was possibly previously trained a little bit, but that never actually used his skills at all. And this was the first time he actually had to use any fighting skills because he was very clumsy about it, and I really got lucky. So that was kind of a fun little scene. And again, I don't know if those were scavengers or raiders. I assumed that they were scavengers. They didn't really have the raider vibe from the game, so that's kind of what I assumed that they were. And one other question I had was that, how did caps become the currency? Because he didn't have enough caps to repair the little device or whatever, so he ended up having to go get his teeth pulled to get some caps or whatever to pay the repair chick to repair his little doodad.
So now I don't remember exactly, but and let me know down in the comments, and feel free to do it respectfully, guys. Geez, but let me know down in the comments. But I'm pretty sure in Fallout the first one, they mention about caps and how they become the currency.
I wrote this down. Was it yesterday? And I got really interested in it, so I actually did watch a small video on why it was. And you were, what did you say? Number one? Yeah, I think it was mentioned number one as well. And apparently it was like, they needed a way, they needed something that had a finite amount that they couldn't make more of. And there was only a couple of actual factories that could produce the caps that had, you couldn't counterfeit them, right? So that was one of the main reasons as well. And I guess it was done by the New California government,
New California Republic. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So yes, you're right there. So that's when I said I wonder how cats can carry. That was just something I wrote down when I was watching the episode.
Now, if you think about this, and we're not going to go into it too heavy, I don't want to get political, but that type of currency sounds like exactly what we need in this country right now. Like something they can't make a bunch more of, something that can't be counterfeited. Let's all go to caps.
Yeah, I know. This is why blockchain is so. Again, not getting on attention. This is why one of the reasons why blockchain is so popular, I guess. But in any event, caps is an interesting thing because I guess I was also listening to kind of a little story about the developers when they were making the game, and they said they tried a few different things as in-game currency because at first they were just going to barter, right? But it didn't make sense for the player to be carrying around, like, I don't know, Brahma milk to trade with some other settler. You can't, like, just like everyone else when currency became a thing, like if you're trading when bartering was a thing, if you had, if you were a miner, well, you can't carry big carts of fucking ore to trade for food everywhere you go. You needed some mediary thing to use in place of that you could put in your pocket. So it makes sense, to have that type of thing in a like basically the restart of the human civilization type of thing. So just an interesting spot there. Just to kind of finish it up, was they had like a little gathering in Vault 33 towards the end of the episode. And man, for some reason, like Lucy's brother, Mort, or not Mort, is that his name? Mort or Norm? Sorry, Norm. Man, he comes off as a little psychopath. And maybe it's just kind of what happened, and maybe what had happened there kind of changed his views of things. And watching all of this, where everyone else just seems to kind of go back to oh yeah, some people died. We got these raiders captive as well, by the way. The leaders, because I guess they have like 3 people that are leading the little Vault 33 since the main overseer got kidnapped, right? Their dad or whatever got kidnapped. So they kind of have a little tribunal, whatever. A couple of them are running, I think, for or maybe that's not yet, but I don't remember. But the overseer, the chick, she seems different than the other 2 guys. The other two guys seem like they're just oblivious to what's actually going on. And
So
the black chick seems like she kind of understands.
Betty, yeah. So
Yes.
here's the thing. Like, I feel like the other two guys that are running is kind of like what we've got now going on with politics. It's like people who have no clue about what they're doing. They like, again, they're like, oh no, bring it to the public forum. He goes, oh yeah, the water chip thing's broken. We're gonna run out of water in 2 months. Like, oh no, cut. You know, like they
can't talk about that.
Stuff.
Yeah,
yeah, like because they're again, you know, there's that naivete coming back out. But the thing is, what it really reminds me of, and I think I know a couple of them are subscribed to my channel, so I hope they watch this at work. But it reminds me of my work, right? I've got some people that are in higher positions than me that when they talk, I'm like, wow, this makes no sense. But you know, but again, you know, if you're surrounded by all of this crazy and you're normal, you seem like the insane one, right? Like her brother stands out so much like he's crazy and weird because he is sane versus the other ones you're like, dude, you're going to die in 2 minutes topside.
yeah.
So I definitely like, it is funny. Like, yeah, he's giving off some weird vibes, but like for me, they give off much weirder vibes. So
They're kind of creepy because in that scene, like he's like, oh yeah, we should do what they would have done to us, and they're like, oh my gosh, that's just out of line. You can't talk like that. Blah blah blah. Everyone's leaving.
yeah, but
And then Bert's widow, the one that's pregnant, kind of turns back to Norm and is like, if your father were here, he would do what needs to be done. Or I forget what the line she says, but
you're right, you know. If your father were here, he'd do the right thing.
you know, she's still, I think she's kind of in the same mindset that he is. Like, we can't keep putting our head in the sand here. This is not right.
Here's my thing though. You know, he said that, right? About like we should do to them what they were going to do to us, right? Isn't the golden rule in the vault, do unto others as they have done to you?
It is.
Just saying.
It is.
I'm just saying.
It is.
Like he was just following the golden rule.
Yeah. Yep. That's actually pretty funny. Yeah. Then that episode, we can finish up with this one, but the end of that episode, you find out that Cooper is actually the Fallout Boy.
Yeah,
not the actual, not the band or anything, but like,
yeah.
The actual.
I'm so going to cut that
guy
in here. Like you can expect it.
Yeah.
It's going to be cut into the video. Now, one thing I will say though, a couple of little like nods to the game that I like, and when I say nods to the game, that like things we did. You know, I mentioned the last video that like if I was Lucy, I'd be looting everything, right? And made it unrealistic. Like I'd be taking.
Mm-hmm.
I like that when you see the squires with that enormously oversized freaking backpack that they're carrying around, is like it's that not the, you know, most of the time we took companions in the game just to make them carry shit for us. Right? Like I need the additional carry weight. So when you see the squires, especially when you're in power armor, because it weighs enough, fusion cores weigh a lot. So like, yeah, you would give up your companion, just load them down.
All your stuff. Yeah.
So I'd love that they're gonna do that like that, because that's what it feels like, right? Which you would do in the game. So now let's move on to episode 4. Because 4 was a good one.
It was a good one.
Entitled Ghouls. Little green ghouls, man.
Ghouls, man. Yeah, ghouls are my favorite thing. Sorry, yeah.
Ghouls.
Son of a bitch. What are you talking about now?
Funny little green ghouls.
What? Like in movies and cartoons? What?
Little green ghouls, buddy.
Don't.
Sorry,
no, this one.
Always Sunny reference
yeah.
for anybody who loves that show.
Yeah. This one kind of opens up where they find another ghoul who's in the middle of turning feral. Which again, if you played the game, there are ghouls that are normal. That, well, I say normal in the sense that they're not crazy. They're kind of in the line of Cooper, where he still is cognizant, he's conscious, knows what he's saying, and can control his own actions. Then there are feral ghouls that are just rabid, almost like they have rabies kind of thing, where they're crazy. And this ghoul's kind of turning right, and he's wanting, do you got a little taste, of I'm assuming it's Radaway, right? And I just assume that's how Cooper has survived as long as he had. He's real, and he mentions it too. He's like, I'm real good at making money, and that's how I assume he's survived. To get a lot of Radaway, so he doesn't turn into a feral ghoul.
So now, real quick, pause for anybody who maybe is watching the series but hasn't played the games or doesn't remember the games. Ghouls are basically immune to everything. They still do have to eat and drink, but they are immune to basically everything. However, rads can't hurt them. However, the Radaway, like Mantis is talking about, keeps their mind, because they do need that, right? Otherwise, their mind will decay, just like their body, into becoming feral. So that's why, real quick, just a little public service announcement.
Yeah, and you mentioned some nods to the game in that conversation. They're talking about Blamco mac and cheese, which is a reference to the game. Just some, because in that game, there's a survivability aspect to that game where you have to eat and drink, and you have to keep those meters up to stay alive. Keep you can carry more items if you have full thirst.
I'm sorry, but like that was actually kind of a sad scene, because like when they come up on him, so first off, real quick, I want to back up. What I love is they keep walking into these little like small town like things, like they'll walk here and then all of a sudden here's a couple little settlements and stuff. And I love that, because that's just like the game, right? But he's in there and they hear this guy, and he's trying to hold on to his sanity. He's trying to remember his own name, and then they're talking about like he's like, you remember how apple pie and everything used to taste? It was like this. He seemed like a really nice guy, right? Like
he was a nice ghoul.
Yeah, he was nice. Like you can see why Charlie likes him, and all that. Yeah. And so that was actually kind of a sad scene. Just all of a sudden, boom.
Yeah, he got rid of him real fast.
Damn, apple pie. My mom used to.
But he gave him a nice memory to think about, because he's like, oh yeah, I remember, boom. So he had a nice memory to go out on, right?
Yeah, it kind of shook Lucy for a little bit, and then it really shook her when
ass jerky.
Yeah, like I wrote down, he had to, he used that cannibal perk, because there's perks in the game you get when you use a cannibal perk. It means you get more health and stuff from eating, flesh. So
that jerky does count as flesh.
You got to do what you got to do to survive in the wasteland, and apparently it is making ass jerky from the ghoul. So, kind of the next part there was, again, I was talking about the I don't know the actress that plays her, but that plays the chick that Bert's widow, kind of goes a little crazy on Chet.
Stephanie Harper is the actual actress. Plays Annabelle O'Hagan.
Yes. Yeah. Comes to Chet, his room, and like is kind of confiding in him a little about, she's lonely, and in her twisted mind a little bit sees Bert in him, just a little glimpse of it, right? And then she's like, well, what if I dress him up as Bert? And so like fucking dresses him in his like sweater and all this shit, and she starts making out with him, and of course they're gonna end up they want to end up fucking, and then her fucking water breaks, which is fucking hilarious.
That whole scene,
yeah,
you shouldn't be on this channel if you are a kid. I always make all the videos not for kids, right? Because we do cuss and everything, but that is really not for kids, that scene, but it is hilarious.
No, because it's actually really funny, because it goes from them gonna fuck to like what happens after 9 months after you do that, like all within like a minute. So it's actually really funny.
Well, but I kind of feel like in the vault, like everything's a sped up process. Like, boom, they meet somebody, they start banging, because again, it's about procreation and repopulating. So everything's a sped up process in the vault.
Yeah. That part was kind of funny. But I will say again here, I wanted to reiterate, because I mentioned this in the first video we did. The set design that you see of the vault, and Vault 32 as well, is very good. When you see Lucy and Cooper going, and he's of course taking her to the Super Duper Mart at this point, because they get to a bigger city. And you see the city in the background, and it looks fantastic. It looks just straight out of the game. Like I wrote, as like this. I feel like this show could take place in the same universe as all of the games. Like that's how a good of a job that they did. And I know you mentioned this too. You said they have the game director on set or as a consultant or writer or something with the show, right?
Yes, Todd Howard.
Todd Howard, yes.
Yes.
So you can see why. Like the characters, the Vault Dwellers act like Vault Dwellers would act. The Raiders act like Raiders would act. The ghouls act. I mean, everyone acts like they should from the game. It's just crazy. A good job that they did with the immersion in the show as compared to the game. Because this is something we've discussed before on our channel, that it's really kind of one of the things that gets missed. Right, you don't feel like it's in the same vein or in the same universe as either the game or the movie, depending on which vice versa you're doing.
They've got the sound effects for the doors. Everything is just like it would be in, like, when Lucy was getting close to the water, because she's like dying of thirst, and of course, the ghoul there, Cooper, he's drinking the nasty water, but her Pip Boy is just going off the charts, right?
Yeah, her rads are going,
and like there's the part where, because with the head, and we did kind of skip over this part, and even though it's kind of like a pretty main part between these two episodes, she puts the little tracker thing in the head so she can keep track of it on the Pip Boy, and you see, but it's got like stats, it's got all this, just like from what you're looking on the game, the map looks that way. Real quick, because we didn't mention the last one, I love how they did the gulper. Like that one, when it got Lucy, and she lost her boot, and there she's now trucking along with with no boot on, and everything he was trying to do, and then of course with Maximus taking over as Knight Titus, getting his squire, he saves his life, and they kind of get a little buddy.
Yeah, and maybe at that point the squire is kind of like, he's not acting. He's not acting like a normal knight should. And I feel like maybe that's going to play out here soon. So.
And then there was another part I was thinking about that, obviously we see Lucy tries to make a run for it because Cooper's getting, hurt by the fact that he doesn't have his rat away. He's turning feral. He ropes her, of course, that's what he used to do.
He's a cowboy. He knows what he's doing. Yeah.
She bites his finger off, which is, we've seen her cut the head off. We've seen her do some things that have been, like,
non-vault-dwellery.
Yeah, well, yeah, where you could tell her she's kind of starting to adapt. She took the drinks of the water, but that's the first actual like act of like evil or bad that we've seen her, which I wouldn't say bad, but you know what I mean, right? Biting.
Neither would Cooper, because he says, he's like, I said neither did Cooper think it was evil, because he's like, now that's the first
honest exchange,
real conversation.
Yeah.
Now that right there is the closest thing we've had to an honest exchange so far.
Because then he cuts her finger off. Well, he's just like, you know what? Do unto others. So,
and he's like, this is how you have to be. I think it was maybe he knows what he's going to do, because I'm going to move on here. But it's kind of a little thing that he's like, now it sucks that I'm going to teach you this lesson right now, but because of what's going to happen to you in a couple of minutes. But it's like, well, here you go. This is how you got to be in the wasteland.
Now, this is something interesting, because I don't know that the games have ever addressed this. If they have, guys, I apologize. Roast me in the comments if you need to, but let me know if there's been a game that has actually said it, because when he turns her in, he says 2 months of vials, right? When he turns her in. So, and those guys those were not the guys I was expecting to be running the Super Duper Mart. I love it though. It was so fucking funny, because you're like, really? But they said, we've got 60 vials. So 2 months worth of Radaway for him is actually 60. So he has to use one a day.
Average one a day. Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
That's crazy. That'd get expensive over 200 years.
Where's the Radaway coming from? Who's making that shit?
Right?
Like chemists? Like they deal with it? I mean, it has to be, I'm assuming. Like,
I can't imagine even in big cities that there's that much of a supply. Thinking how many ghouls there are. But We get to see the Mr. Handy robot. I don't know which particular model this is because there's the Mr. Gutsies. There's all the different ones.
They call him Snip Snip.
Yeah, they call him Snip
Is what
Snip,
the
but I'm
guys
gonna
call
call
him,
him Mr.
but-
Handy.
Yeah, that's what I thought he was too. Yeah.
So that was cool. I love that because he acts just like those fucking robots
He
do
does.
in the game. Like just
does.
completely.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I love that. And then of course there's the what is her name? The female ghoul that's going feral in there. That was another sad scene.
I don't know if they actually tell her name, but she's like
She's
you can
saying
see
her name.
Lucy's
She's
sympathy.
trying to remember it, right?
Martha. My name is Martha.
That's right.
I can't remember what she's saying. It's been a little bit since I watched the episode. But yeah,
I don't know. Yeah. But I know what you're
Again-
talking about. She sees her when she's getting gurneyed in. And they go, Mr. Handy's taking her on the gurney. She's, of course, strapped down to it. And she's looking over and she's seeing all these ghouls in the cages, right? And
well, so when she releases them all, they don't have her. They don't release her and a couple of others because they're basically going feral. And she makes
Right.
them. And of course, they end up killing the two dudes, which I thought was hilarious because the Mr. Handy and the guys, they all die. Everybody dies, and it's like Reservoir Dogs.
Well, and I think you're right. Like Lucy, I think at that point understands what is happening to Cooper. She understood. At that point she understands what that guy at the very beginning was going through.
Yeah,
right. That they met.
And
Yeah.
I'll say this because I don't want this video to go too long, so this will be my final thing on there. It ends with like one of my favorite things, my favorite lines thus far in the entire series so far is that there's all of those vials of the Radway and all this other stuff, and she goes up to him and she's like, "I may end up looking like you, but I'm not going to become you." And she drops the vials of Radway in front of him, and she's just like, "Golden rule, motherfucker."
I may end up looking like you, but I'll never be like you. Golden rule, motherfucker.
And I love it because
Yeah.
we see she's got some arm padding, so she's getting some armor like you do. Eventually you get armor over your vault suit and things like that.
Mhm.
She's got a gun now. So you could tell like she's changing, she's adapting. But I love that. Golden rule, motherfucker. Just walks off like a boss.
Yeah. That's because it's like 10 minutes left in the episode at that point, and she gives him those vials because she's like, oh, he needs these, right? He's gonna turn, right? And I think at that point you could see in his face as she did it, he was kind of just maybe getting his humanity back a little bit, and maybe this chick is not as bad, or maybe she could be an asset moving forward. Who knows what's going through his head? I took it as, maybe especially after he goes inside and watches that video of himself as what actually they filmed and put out in that Western that he did, because he ends up killing that guy that he didn't want to in the video, in the movie that he was making back in the day. But I think maybe that kind of triggered something in him of remembering back to his wife and his daughter, and everything that in the life he used to have, that maybe he didn't need to be as ruthless and that he is currently been. So, but who knows? Maybe his character won't have that story arc.
Well, I think Lucy helps remind him of that little part of himself that he wishes he could still be. So she's that like he was, right? That kind of almost naive-ish, but tries to do good even in bad situations. So I think
another thing before we go, I did want to say one thing about, because this was a part where they Chet and Norm go to the old Vault 32 and find out that someone opened up the Vault 32 to let those raiders in to kill everyone or whatever, and it ended up, he was hacking on the computer, and he found out that it was.
Dude, I love that because it looked just like how you hack. I love that. It even had the little like gibberish.
Yeah, it was great. And then they found out that it was actually Lucy's mom, or Lucy and Norm's mom, that at least the Pit Boy that
the
was
Pit
used.
Boy was. Now, we had seen in episode 2 when she goes to the first little town, they did have Pit Boys. They had other Vault Tech equipment because Lucy tries to claim it, saying, "Hey, that's Vault Tech property."
Right.
So we don't know, right? But what I also did think was interesting in that episode is you see that it's not 32 and 33 that are connected. It's 31, 32, and 33 that
2
are
and
connected.
33.
So there's
Yep.
3.
Yeah.
It's a menage a
Yeah, there was
trois
3.
of vaults.
So I'm assuming they're gonna go find out, and she's probably gonna go, or someone's gonna go try and visit 31 as well. Because I'm assuming they're obviously really close together. But also kind of the very last thing: who the hell is buying human body parts in charge of that organ farm that Mr. Handy was, taking them apart and selling to? I assume that's going to be a story arc going forward as well. So
No,
uh,
my biggest problem with that, and I promise, guys, the last thing says, what was the point of giving her another finger if you're just going to harvest her organs?
yeah, made no sense. I know. I don't know. It was
Okay,
weird.
Mr. Handies, man, you never know what they're going to do. But you know what we're going to do? We're going to go ahead and wrap it on up. If you liked this video and you've made it with us this far, we definitely do appreciate it. Mantis is going to do the thing. He's going to show you where he's pointing right now is where you can click that like button, subscribe to the channel for more of this content as well as all of the other Marvel and DC content we've got coming. And then go ahead and click the little bell notification. It lets you know. We've been on a video releasing slew here lately, so we've been dumping out a lot of new content. That's probably a better way I could have worded that, but we have been releasing a lot of new content that if you don't have that bell notification clicked, you won't get notified of that. So
Yeah, I like the show. It's very good. That's my last word.
all right, and then yeah, we'll go ahead and wrap it up there, guys. So until next time, we will see you then. Later.